This is Whiskey Whereabouts. I'm Tim, and this is a blended malt from Campbeltown. It's called the Campbeltown Loch, and it has a secret. It has Springbank in it. So does that mean that it's automatically good? My whiskey journey has taken me to Scotland and back. I've explored whiskey education, tastings, and distilleries from Islay to Speyside. And now my journey continues here, with you, on Whiskey Whereabouts. So just so we're on the same page, it's a blended malt. It's not a blended scotch. There's no grain whiskey in this whiskey. It is a blend made up of malt whiskey just from different distilleries, so it's not a single malt. What distilleries? Well, that's the interesting part. There are 5 distilleries represented as being part of the vatting that makes up the Campbeltown Loch. Wait, there's only 3 distilleries in Campbeltown. Yes, but at Springbank they make 3 different whiskeys. They make Springbank, they make the unpeated Hazelburn, and they make the heavily peated, relative to Springbank, Longrow. And we are told that all 3 are represented here, along with whiskey from Kilkerran, which is made at the Glen Distillery, J.A. Mitchell, the parent company of Springbank's other distillery, Springbank's sister distillery, and Glen Scotia as well. We have non-age statement whiskey, we have no chill filtration and no color added, and we have the correct 46% ABV. And I was sort of joking when I said that it's a secret that there's Springbank in this bottle. It literally says Springbank embossed on the glass because this is the exact same bottle that the Springbank comes in. It's the same emboss, the same foil with the company logo. The labels are taking up the same spot. For me here in the US, the same importer. And the other thing I want to point out while I have this out is this is 15-year Springbank. This is my Campbeltown Loch pour. This is a dark whiskey. And this is fully sherry matured, 15-year whiskey. So the Campbeltown Loch is said to have some batch variation. So for those really interested, my bottle code says November 22, 2023 for my batch of this blended malt, which has had plenty of time to breathe. So I'm going to go in neat on the nose now. The nose on here confirms what I'm already suspecting, is that we have a lot of sherry matured whiskey in this bottle. That color is so dark and so rich. And what the nose is really rich, and it's a lot of sherry sweet. It's a lot of cinnamon. It's that end of the sherry spice spectrum. It is that sweet sherry sweet. You need to let it, I've found, and I've only had my bottle open for, I don't know, a week or so. It hasn't been open forever. I have found that it does need to sit in the glass, even though it lacks an age statement. When I had the neck pour, it had a real strong sort of brassy, you know what I mean by that, that sort of sharpness coming off the nose. Even after I let it sit, that had to dissipate before I could get into these next sort of flavor notes. Having had it open a week, having had a couple pours out of it, and now, clearing out some space in the bottle, and now having left this one sit before I went in, that's really sort of been, I don't know if it's eliminated, but maybe integrated into this, so that strong sherry sweet is coming out of the gate. It's a big sort of rich nose. This is not a weak, sort of mild or watered down blended scotch. Again, it's blended malt, and it's 46%, so we've got a really nice presentation here. The other flavor notes, when we talk about Springbank, when we talk about Campbeltown, we're expecting some sort of contrary notes, and they're here. What I'm getting is, every time I sort of go a little deeper and try to pick out the next level, I'm really hit with this peppermint note, and it's nice. It's nicely balanced with the sweetness. I'm getting fruit. Tropical fruit was really strong on the neck pour. Banana. Now, tropical fruit remains, but there's a sort of tart green apple. It's got crisped up a little bit on the note. How's the smoke, right? We've got Springbank. Springbank is lightly peated. Hazelburn's not peated. More peat in the Longrow. We don't know how much Glen Scotia. We don't know how much of the Kilkerran is in here. It's not very smoky on the nose. It's sort of a toasty, dry kind of smoke dissipated smoke, and it's at the bottom of the nose. It's not sitting up on top like a big sort of peated island whiskey, right? It's almost like a root beer note. It's really nice because down there is also where I'm getting the most of the smoke. There is a saltiness. It's nice. It's not full briny, but there's that nice salt presence, and there is an earthiness. There is, I'm going to use the word, right? Talking about this Campbeltown whiskey, does it have the funk? And it has more of the earthy, so more minerally, I think, than funky. And it is not as vegetal the way I associate that element on the nose with the Springbank 10. Again, it's a little bit more rich, but plenty of depth, round, sort of rich elements here. It's not as complicated as a couple of those other whiskeys I'm talking about. Going on the palate neat on this. What's the first word I'm going to use to describe this? Oily, right? Oily, rich mouthfeel. It's there, as you expect it to be. I am getting a sweetness. It is butterscotch giving way to a chocolate. There is a little bit more smoke now. I wouldn't call it full ashy, but I have that smoky kind of texture. I'm talking about palate, not right now, but I'm talking about on that palate. There was more fruit when it was fresh from the bottle, that neck pour. I almost got a little bit of a orchardy fruit element. And here, I think the sweetness is richer, and it's not giving me as much of that sort of contrasting fruit element. What it's doing instead, lots of spice. I'm getting the sherry spice still. It is leading cinnamon. That's complementing nicely with a little bit of heat here. This thing has some presence. 46%, but it kind of announces itself on the palate neat. And I'm getting a little bit of the wood spice too. There's so much this sort of chocolate element, that chocolate sweetness. Is really nice to have those spicy sort of notes to kind of offset it sort of going full, just rich, sweet, like some of your sherry bombs might do. Going back for the finish now, neat. It's long, and by far the most of the peat. We've got some decent smoke here. We've got a nice little sort of campfire smoke going, and there is a lot of the sweetness. When it was that first pour, the sweet was really sort of condensed into a slightly bitter, like a high cacao kind of percentage dark chocolate. Now I am getting that chocolate still, but it's sort of separated out, so I've got distinctive notes. So the chocolate sweet, and then sort of a coffee ground bitter, which is nicer. It's not sort of blended together into a lesser. I can experience both of the notes, so that's opened up nicely with a little time. It has definitely that cinnamon, sherry spice on top. There is a fruit. Now it's gone melon. It's a little juicy, slightly tropical, so sweet citrus. It's a little bit more of that sort of garden, more than vegetal, and it is definitely, I wouldn't say it's funky, but whatever that presence that we expect to be here, I think that's how it's manifesting on its way out. It's not a hot whiskey. I wouldn't say it needs any water, but as we always do, we go ahead and check it out and see if we can find anything else. Adding a little bit of the water on the nose with the water now. Yeah, so not an improvement. That brassy element is sort of back. It's a little bit sharp. It's not hot. And some of the richer elements have been washed out. It's greener. I have that sort of earthy element, some of the tropical fruit. It is going vegetal now. How about the palate? Spices up front, chip butterscotch sweet, without sort of having that depth and the sort of sweetness into that sort of chocolate zone. Mouth feels okay. It has suffered. I mean, this is not across the board. It's been diminished with the water. A lot of same elements on the finish, but some of it has been lost. Really butterscotchy now. Where does that leave me on the Campbeltown Loch? Pretty impressed for this blended malt, and it is the same price I paid, I think, $75 or between $75 and $80 for my bottle. I've seen it as low as $68, $69 here in the US. That is not inexpensive to pay for blended malt whiskey. It's a lot more than you're gonna pay for Monkey Shoulder. It's not nearly close enough to get into even these entry-level Springbank or Kilkerran whiskeys, obviously. It's about the same price as you pay for Spice Tree. This destroys Spice Tree. It's not even close. At this price point, you're choosing between trying this or, I would say, your Ardbeg 10, your Port Charlotte 10 year. That's the kind of ballpark. Those I'm getting some quality age statements. They're also classics, and it's not a 1-for-1. We are not two sort of Isla whiskeys, but just in this price point, sort of staple sort of whiskeys. That's the neighborhood you're in, so it's not inexpensive. I am not disappointed at all. This is delicious. I am enjoying it, and I'm not enjoying it for a blended malt. It's not as complex as I have had experience with Springbank before, but what is here is really well-developed, balanced, and rich, which is what I expect. So it's 4 glasses on the Campbeltown Loch before considering value, and to be honest with you, I don't think it's overpriced because it's good. I don't think it's a bargain either. Very well presented, great job. No age statement, blended malt. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna say 4 and 4. Final rating. So we've established that the Campbeltown Loch is good. You may be asking, is it a good substitute for when you cannot find any of those Campbeltown single malts or you can't afford their markups? Let's find out. I have the blue glasses out, and I'm going to go ahead and put the Campbeltown Loch in this blind flight with its big brothers, Springbank 10 year and the Kilkerran 12. I almost wouldn't need the blue glasses again, but the Campbeltown Loch is so dark. I do not know which glass is which. They have been placed blind. You will know and I won't. And I'm going to start, as I always do, on this side. I'm not gonna note all these whiskeys. I just reviewed one of them. Okay, so starting on my left with whiskey number 1 on the nose. Yeah, pretty rich and sweet nose. Pretty familiar. Yeah, it's a nice nose. I have, let's go on to whiskey number 2. Not as sweet. This one's a little bit more subtle, but it's deep. Oh, I'm getting that mint again. Remember, we have 2 single malt whiskeys in this flight, and they are bourbon and sherry mature. 60-40 ratio bourbon on the Springbank and 70-30, I think, on the Kilkerran. Don't know which is which, just there is sherry carrying through in all 3 glasses, I believe. Let's go to nose number 3. Oh yeah, very nice. Very nice nose. Yeah, there's some sweetness here. It's a richer, sort of more caramel sweet, really. Yeah, tropical fruit. Yeah, that is a killer nose on whiskey number 3. Okay, so on the noses, I am gonna say that whiskey number 3 is the best nose. I am gonna say that whiskey number 1 is the second best nose, and I kind of have a feeling I know what it is. I kind of have a feeling I know what they are across the board. But this is a very good nose. There is no loser here. This one is just a little bit more robust, and these, are all very, very solid. This one jumps out of the glass a little bit more. Very close. I am getting a little bit more on this nose, going back and forth. Yeah, a little bit more of that sort of tropical fruit element is kind of shining. You kind of go back and forth and pick things up. Let's go through the palates very quickly. Whiskey number 1, really rich, solid whiskey here. Had a little water. Go for whiskey number 2 now. This nose is hiding, but here comes that palate. This is a really rich palate. When you go from whiskey number 1 to 2, you're really getting that experience. There's a lot of depth here. There's a lot of richness. There's different flavors. Whiskey number 3 now on the palate. There's a lot going on here on the palate. Sweetness, more honey sweet here. There's offsetting elements. There's a little bit, I think of the 3, the most is sort of peat element on whiskey number 3. So this time it's easy. It's 3, 2, 1. And it's not huge gaps, but there is a step up here, and this one again with the different elements. But let's go back and do it on the finish and see what happens. I really like this finish. It keeps going, and as I was talking about before, it really has a lot of those really satisfying flavor elements and a nice procession as it develops. Really like that. Again, long. There's sweetness. There's tropical fruit. This one has a little bit more bitter to it, and it has a real. It's not smoky. We're not getting a lot of that smoke. This whiskey, I think, probably has a smokier palate. I'm going to go back and compare them again when I rank them. I went to whiskey number 3 on the palate now. It's fantastic. That's really good. That's a really good finish. It is, and it's there's some really satisfying flavors that are strong and balanced in this. I don't really have a lot of confusion as to which whiskey is which. I'm gonna say whiskey number 3, which is the Springbank 10. That's gonna be the best finish. It's won all 3 categories, and it's the winner. And yes, it is the Springbank 10. The Kilkerran is, I'll give it the edge. There's just more here, but this is an incredibly satisfying finish. Just to double check, yes, this is the Kilkerran, and that means that is the Campbeltown Loch. And yes, I knew, I just tasted this one and reviewed it. It's just, there's so much sweetness here. And look at the color, right? That it was pretty clear which one this was, and this whiskey's hard to mistake in a flight. So it is what it is. But this one is a worthy sort of entrant into this flight. And if you enjoyed this flight and this review today, make sure you subscribe. You can press this button that's going to pop up right over here, and you can make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the future videos on the channel, and I will see you on the next one.